Welcome to the Art Lady's Home. I'm so glad you found my channel. I also have a kids channel, the Art Lady channel, which is art education. I'm an art educator, and I'm sharing with you in the Art Lady's Home channel some things about my home, and a lot of it has to do with little artistic designs and things in my home. But for this video today, I'm sharing with you my design of my pool wall. And this pool wall was built and designed with the intentions of giving a little bit more privacy when you're actually in the swimming pool from the neighbors. And I'm going to show you now what I have to view with my neighbors. And since then, they have purchased this camper, and now I have the camper views. So what I've done is I've built a living, edible, mostly edible, backdrop to the pool here. I planted behind my pool wall, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that. But first I want to show you and talk to you a little bit about this wall. I'm so glad that I did this wall, because when you're actually in the swimming pool, you don't have views of the neighbor, and they don't have views for you. The hot tub is opened a little bit here, so what I did was I added some just potted plants, and then I have some plants on the outside as well. And then it's heavily planted on the fence line for more privacy. This is just another view of it here. But my main concern is when I'm actually sitting out on the patio or in my backyard, I'm just enjoying the views of nature and not of campers and trailers. So that was why I decided to go with some edible plants. After researching, I felt that they would be the most economical way to make a large privacy hedge or fence made of, greenery, the quickest and easiest and cheapest. And so I'm going to share with you today some of the plants that I planted. And these plants have been in for about a month, and then the very end plants that I just started planting this weekend, the last of the edible fence. And so they haven't filled in quite as much. But I'm going to share with you what I chose, and it seems to be doing the trick. Over in this area, I'm not seeing too much of that camper, and I think by the end of summer that'll be all filled in beautifully. So I'm happy with my choice here. And I did overplant just so that I could have a quicker result. But the actual bond beam wall here, this is about a 3.5-foot wall from my tile line here. And then it goes down to about, I think it's down to 2.5 feet. And then the hot tub area is raised up as well for a little bit more privacy here. And then I did stick some of these potted plants in, and then I can move them around. But I don't like a lot of the plants right there on top of me when I'm in the hot tub. I like to be able to reach out and have a nice clean area to sit on. And so I went with just a few plants just for decorative on the inside, but then I have some potted plants right on the outside here, and I'll show you what that looks like. When you're in the pool, I love the wall. And it has a waterfall. It's a 4-foot Pentair LED waterfall. And the actual wall, of course, is blocking you out. You can't see anything beyond that, because when you're actually in, if you just picture it, this is a 5.5-foot deep pool here, and it's just a very tiny one. But when you're in, you can't see over that wall. So I'm loving that I did the wall thing, and I don't think I'd ever put a pool if I had a neighbor that close without a wall. It was worth the extra money, and I just think it's beautiful. So I'm happy about that. And then I do have a street view here, this area from the street. I'm going to show you that. This is my view from the street, and this is a private cul-de-sac that we live in the back of, so we don't get a lot of street traffic. It's just the neighbors here. And my little picket fence is I believe it's a 4-inch PVC picket fence. And I have that planted with some fruit trees as well, so that will fill in, and it'll give a little bit more privacy. But I'm not so concerned about the street, because we're not right on top of the property line on the street here, but on my wall side here, we only have a 10-foot or 8-foot easement, I think there is. It's an 8-foot easement to the neighbors. So that's the area that I was the concerned with the most. This is right outside the hot tub area, and I want to show you what I potted up. I just did some tropical fern, and then I did some variegated ginger, and then 2 pots that are on this little shelf here I did of jasmine. And these I'll move to a different area as soon as they finish blooming. And actually they're just about finished. It was really nice to have the 2 potted jasmine. It gave me privacy, but it also scented the air, so when you're in the hot tub, that amazing smell just comes right in, and it seems like when you turn it on and the heat's on, it just makes it smell even heavier. So it's really a beautiful little smell there. And then I potted up a gardenia, and so when the jasmine are finishing up blooming, then my gardenia is now in bloom. And this I can end up moving to a sunnier spot when it's not in bloom, but for now, as the blooms are here, I get the beautiful scent. So I wanted that kind of, that aromatherapy where you have that beautiful scent going on right next to the hot tub. So that strategic planting was important to me. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the fruit trees that I put in. This is a plum tree, and I do not know the variety. I bought this at it was a local grower that had it, and they sold them at the flea markets, our farmers market. So I purchased it there. It's about a 7-foot, I want to say about 7-foot tall plum tree, and that it was about as tall as that when I purchased it. And I found that those markets have pretty good deals if you're looking for larger trees. It seems a little bit better than Lowe's or Home Depot price. You just have to watch it. You may want to make sure that you know there's no insects or bugs or disease or anything on those plants. But it's doing really well, and it has leafed out beautifully. And like I said, it's been in about, I want to say, a month and a half. So it's doing real well. And next, what I planted for fruits, this was a jasmine bush that I had, and I already had this tall bush here while the pool was being built. But the next one, to fill in all these little pockets, I planted a Barbados cherry tree, and this is the, let's see if I can, this is the Barbados cherry. And it was pretty small. It's grown about, I want to say about a foot and a half. You can see all the bright new growth on it since I planted it. We are just starting some rainy season, so that was great to get it in the ground. We've had rain 2-3 times a week now. We're just coming out of our dry winter season, and so everything's leafing up, greening. So there's the cherry tree there, and I did 2 of them. So I planted the cherry tree, and then in between the cherry trees, for more privacy, I planted some of these. It's a cedar or cypress tree. I can't remember the exact name of that one. I'll let you know in the description below the title what that is. And here is the second Barbados cherry tree that I stuck in, and it's doing well too. Like I said, it's about a foot of new growth here right at the top. It did bloom when I purchased it. It had a few blooms on it, but I don't see any fruit that was set, and I think that's because it was going through the shock of being transplanted. But there it is, tucked in. And then I planted another peach tree, and this is what I did, a plum tree rather. This is what I did this weekend. And that's about a 7-foot plum tree here. This is a little leggy, and I'm going to cut it back in about 3 weeks once it catches. I don't want to shock it too much. It did get a little bit of a bump coming home in the car, and I lost a few branches, so I hope that's not going to cause a problem. And then I have a papaya tree, and this is actually like the last area that I planted. I'm going to show you from the second view over here, another view of what I did here. But this is a papaya tree, and that's been in the ground for about a month as well. And between the plum tree, which is to the very left in the screen here, and you get to see the beautiful views instead of nature, we have the camper, which breaks my heart. But anyways, there is the papaya tree, and then tucked behind that is a bushy guava, and these grow pretty quick. It's already grown at least a foot since I've planted it. So it's a bushy type of a guava, and that is like a true guava. It's not a different species. The one next to it, though, to the very right, that is a cherry guava, and it's already set fruit. Let me show you some of the little fruit here on it. Yeah, there it is, right there. And this was planted just this past weekend. But this is going to grow really quick and rapid too, and fill in this little corner spot. So I'll have a lot of foliage back there. And I kind of like the tropical guava in the background. The tropical papaya. The guava is going to fill in too, right behind the papaya. And the guava will get pretty big and fill in, so hopefully it'll all hide that camper. That's my goal. And then around the corner here, I'm going to just turn here. This is street view. I have a strawberry guava here. So I'm supposed to have 3 different varieties of guava. A regular guava, which is a bushier one. This is more of a tree forming one, and this is the strawberry guava. And then I'm supposed to have a cherry guava. That's what it was. 3 different kinds of guavas. And I chose them because they love zone 9, and they grow pretty rapid. They grow pretty well, and that way I have good coverage. And then I have here a peach tree, and this will be bush out too. And I chose the tropicals because, or the small trees, because I don't want to have pruning as I'm getting older. I'm close to retirement. I don't want to have to constantly be pruning hedges, formal hedges, and I also get the benefit of the fruit if the squirrels don't get it before me. My plum tree actually had beautiful fruit that it was setting. They were actually bigger than the peaches you're seeing here, and the next day I went out and looked, and they were totally gone. And I don't know if it was the squirrels, but that's what I'm blaming. And they weren't even ripe. They weren't even near ripe, just like the peaches right here aren't ready. But this peach tree is about a 5-foot peach tree that I planted. And all of these trees I did get at the flea markets. I didn't purchase them at like a big box store. I just purchased them at a flea market, and they seem to be doing really well. Like I said, when you purchase them, you want to make sure that you do not, they don't have disease, or they're in pretty good condition. The only one that I thought didn't look that great was this plum tree here, the one that's in the very middle. But I only paid, I think I paid $15 for that. So that was a deal. And all the others I paid between $15 and $25, and then the largest plum, or actually this is a plum tree that I'm looking at right now. But the largest plum tree I think I paid $45 for. So I got really great deals on them at the flea markets. But this one I'm going to trim back, cut the tips a little bit to promote inner branching out, because I want that to branch out pretty full and cover that camper. So there is my living hedge that I planted relatively cheap, and I'll show you. And I call it the alleyway because it's the space between the actual pool, and it forms this little alleyway of bushes. And so far it's really filling in nicely down here, so I'm pretty happy. And it's only mid-May, so by the end of the summer this is going to be a complete wall of privacy. So I'm really liking that. I want to share with you how I planted these plants along the edge here. What I did was I built a temporary retaining wall here to hold soil in, and I just used these scrap half cinder blocks I had around the yard, and then I did have some of this raised It's made from concrete, it's concrete border. So I did put a few of those pieces in too until I use my permanent brick edging. Because I am going to raise this up with brick. And I'll show you the look I'm going for here. It's these old recycled bricks, and I'm going to mortar them in. But that's the look that's going to come down the whole line and actually swoop around the whole yard, is the raised brick. I have it done in my front yard, and I really enjoy that look. So that's what's going to be here. And I got the bricks. I got piles of them for free, and then I did buy a pallet of them really cheap. So I'm going to use those up. But until I can get that done, I wanted to have a temporary so my soil isn't washing out. So I did stick that in. Now, around each of the trees and plants that I planted, what I did was I first dug the hole to place the tree or shrub, and then what I did was I amended the soil with mushroom compost. Most of this is mushroom compost, organic compost, my compost, because I compost, and some topsoil, and that's what I amended everything with. And so that's why I think everything's thriving so well and just doing wonderfully. So that's kind of like my secret, is the raised beds. You've got to have them, especially here in Zone 9 in Florida. I just think the raised beds help a lot, and especially amending our poor soil, because our soil is really bad here. And that's what I've done so far. And then I did put some, organic fertilizer in around each of the plants. I did that recently. I let the plants root in a bit and get used to their new house, and then start growing out. And then I did put a little bit of fertilizer around each, an organic fertilizer. So the new plants I just planted this weekend here, I'm going to wait before I cut back anything, and then I'm going to fertilize them in about 2 to 3 weeks as well. So that's how I plant things. And the secrets are the mushroom compost, organic compost, cow manure. I also put in the whole line, I did about 2 bags of cow manure, I want to say. And then I did on the top, I just do cheap topsoil that I throw on top, and that seems to work for me. Well, I'm delighted to show you, this is the variety of plum that I planted. I just went out to check on a night blooming jasmine, and I just happened to look over, and from the angle I could see this right on the tree. So it is a little Japanese red plum. That's what I believe it is. And you can see that it's about 1.5 inches. I have a cork here to show you the size. Now this was left on the tree too long, and so it split. But I am going to take a little bite out of it just to taste it. It split on the other side too. But I don't think the squirrels got to it. So I'll peek inside and see what it looks like. And then I'm going to taste it, because this is the very first one off that tree. Here we are spacing out the trees, and we arranged them so that the junipers were in between the fruit trees. They grow to be about 4 feet wide, so they will fill in the lower areas, whereas the fruit trees will cover and fill in the canopy areas. So that's my theory of planting junipers in between fruit trees. And then you can see here how we started the raised beds with the recycled bricks that I had around the yard. And it's really filled in quite a bit since the plantings. So I'm really pleased with this. And there's my son. He was one of my main helpers there. And that's the completed look. And now I can't even see the fence, so it's grown in quite a bit since then. And thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my garden. And if you'd like to see more videos, be sure to hit the subscribe button.